In the spring of the 1380s, 29 strangers gather at the Tabard Inn on the outskirts of London, preparing for a pilgrimage to Canterbury. This group represents a collection of people who would never socialize in any other context. A professional knight shares the road with a loud-mouthed miller, a merchant, and a university student. For centuries, people were separated by a rigid system called the Three Estates. You prayed, you fought, or you worked the fields as a peasant. Your birth determined your rank, and the pyramid rarely shifted. Then the Black Death killed 2/3 of Europe's population. The resulting labor shortage gave surviving workers leverage. A new class of tradespeople pushed into the structure, fracturing the old hierarchy. Inside this social vacuum, the innkeeper, Harry Bailey, proposes a game for the journey. Every pilgrim will tell stories to pass the time, and the best storyteller wins a free meal, paid for by the rest of the group. By placing these conflicting social classes in direct competition, Chaucer ensures that the stories themselves become the primary way these characters defend their status. On this road, their worldviews will be tested in front of a live audience. Initially, the game follows the old order. The highest-ranking person, the knight, goes first. He tells a romance. In the 14th century, this meant a story of chivalry, noble warriors, and a beautiful, passive princess who serves as the ultimate prize. The upper-class pilgrims applaud. The aristocratic tone of the journey is set, and the group expects the monk to go next to maintain the dignified, polite momentum. Instead, a brawny, drunken worker named the miller hijacks the ceremony. He refuses to wait his turn, shouting over the host to make himself heard. The miller tells a fablao, a bawdy comic tale. Instead of noble knights fighting for honor, his story features a clever student tricking a gullible carpenter so he can sleep with the man's young wife. The plot is a calculated mockery of the knight's noble love triangle. When the miller forces his way into the spotlight, he shatters the traditional ceremony. This is a takeover of the narrative, where the lower classes seize power and force the aristocracy to listen to their version of reality. The fallout from this interruption is immediate. The manager of a local estate, the reeve, is a carpenter by trade. He takes the miller's story about a foolish carpenter as a deeply personal insult. The reeve retaliates with his own story, specifically targeting a dishonest miller who is tricked and beaten. The storytelling game has become a cycle of targeted revenge. The conflict quickly expands to tackle gender and autonomy. The wife of Bath uses her turn to debate the role of women in marriage, explaining how she strategically managed 5 different husbands to maintain her own business and independence. Then there is the pardoner, a man whose job is to sell church pardons for sins. He freely admits his relics are fake animal bones, yet he preaches a powerful sermon against greed, only to use that story to extort the terrified pilgrims for their cash. Chaucer's characters have turned the game into a battlefield. They use their stories as weapons to settle personal scores, expose institutional corruption, and fight for their social standing. Despite all the arguments and the miles traveled, the pilgrims never actually reach Canterbury Cathedral. Chaucer died before completing the planned 116 tales. However, the destination was never the actual purpose of the book. The power lay in how the stories were told. Chaucer broke from tradition by writing in Middle English, the language of the street, rather than the elite Latin or French used by scholars. By weaving tragedy, tavern jokes, and philosophical debates into one document, he proved English was capable of complex literature. Chaucer gave a distinct voice to every layer of a fractured society. By capturing the conflicting reality of the 14th century, he demonstrated how the English language could build a literary